Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second installment of my Gears of War Ascendance Cliff Notes. For those of you that might not want to read the entire book, I'm going to do my best to fill in all the gaps and give you as many details as I can to make the story easier for those of you that don't want to read it but want to know what happens between Gears 4 and the start of the upcoming Gears 5 release. We left off at Chapter 5, where Baird had walked up upon Marcus and Kate, asking them to join him in his shed or his warehouse so that they can see something he's been working on. This chapter starts with the two of them joining him in the hidden control room, and from the sounds of it, this is actually the same control room you see at the very beginning of Gears 4, where he turns on the monitors and begins watching the celebration parade and ceremony from a secret location on his own estate. But what this is all about is the fact that he can actually watch any DB feed in the entirety of all the robots ever made from this moment and from this position. Once down there, they begin watching the feed, and Kate suddenly realizes where they are. They're at her home village, the one that we saw in Gears 4, Fort Umson. They've destroyed it, and the robots are now crawling through it, trying to find any signs of life, and they find some freshly killed swarm, a pouncer, and a drone or two, I believe they call it, or they refer to it as a drone or two. But as they gather up in front of the giant safe door where they held the children inside, or they put the children inside to save them from possible capture, Kate is very worried. She told the kids before they went in there that everything would be okay, and she hopes she's not a liar. The DBs stack up on the outside and push in. Now, they're not meant to outsmart us. They're not meant to really outthink us. The DBs are mindless drones for security and policing patrols. As they go in, they are torn apart quite easily by what turns out to be two children, Eli and Mackenzie, who we never met in Gears 4, but they were off at another village at the time of the attack on Fort Umson. They kill all these DBs, and while Kate knows that Jin will probably send some more, the last thing that they hear before logging out of this secret installation is Jin ordering that no DB harm them, that they are meant to be taken unharmed and treated as non-combatants under all circumstances. Right after we hear this, Marcus tells Kate she needs to get some much-needed rest, and the chapter closes out. As we move into Chapter 7, Kate goes back and tries to rest a short amount of time before getting into the shower and trying to see if a hot shower will put her mind at ease. And after that, she changes out of the clothes that she's borrowed from Samantha because her own clothes have now been cleaned and washed. She puts back on her own clothes, and she goes to relax again, before seeing that JD and Dell have returned. She sees JD's light turn on under her door out in the hallway, and she decides she would want to go to the kitchen and get something to eat. But before she goes, she stops off to see if JD wishes to join her. She actually has a bit of a moment because JD's mid-shave when she knocks on his door, and she kind of looks away from him. It's one of those like unabashed romance things where you're not exactly sure will they, won't they type moment, but it's quickly knocked to the side because they're all business. JD wants to join her in the kitchen. They're going to have Dell go, and they're all going to go and have something to eat. They gather up food, meats, some cheeses, a bottle of wine. They're going to actually have some, like a full meal for the first time in Lord knows how long for any of them. And they get on the discussion of what happened, why they were asked to stay after, why they weren't immediately allowed to leave with the rest of them. And Kate finds out in that moment that JD and Dell have rejoined the COG army. This understandably doesn't go too well with her. She doesn't really appreciate that they've rejoined an army that tried to kill her, the people in her village, her mother, and apparently did something horrific at Settlement 2. So she's understandably upset, but at the same time, she gets their reasoning. She understands that them being closer to Jin is probably better from their point of view. She's not mad at them for the decision they made. She's mad that she wasn't involved in the decision. As she gets a little more frustrated, she gets up to leave, and JD kind of says, we'll talk tomorrow. And she says, yeah, we will. And then she breaks out of the kitchen and goes back to her own room. And her parting ways with JD and Dell is how Chapter 7 closes out after this heated discussion about JD and Dell getting their full pardons and rejoining the coalition of ordered governments. Chapter 8 starts up, and it's quite interesting if you ask me, because in Chapter 8, you see that she's laying there and she's devised this whole plan to herself. She says, I'm going to go and save those kids. I got to be there. I can't leave that up to Baird. I can't leave it up to anybody other than myself to make sure that it happens. So she orders some room service, and of course the robots don't care what time of day it is. She orders breakfast. They don't care if it's 2 or 3 in the morning. They're going to bring her breakfast because that's what she wants, and they're robots. They bring her some food and a pot of coffee, and she chugs the pot of coffee down because she needs to stay up because she has not gotten really much any sleep whatsoever, and she's on that end of exhaustion rope. She goes in, wraps up the rest of the food in some cloths, packs them away in the pouches on the back of the armor, and she dons Anya Stroud's armor again. She is getting ready to leave this estate, travel back to Fort Umsen. She goes to Baird and she asks him if he can help. She waits for a time to see. She's not even sure if he's awake, but eventually the door unlocks. Baird lets her back into that security room with all those monitors where he was watching some DBs earlier, and he comes up with a pretty ingenious plan that he's going to do a rolling maintenance, as in every patrol that she might come to, they're going to be down for a few seconds, just long enough for her to get past that patrol and move on in between them and get to the next patrol, and he'll continue to kind of watch over her. But if she's caught, there's nothing anybody can do to save her. There's nothing anybody can do for her at that point if she is caught. As she gets to the point where she's leaving the estate, she sees that Baird has made good on her word. He says that she has to keep a continued pace. She cannot slow. She cannot go faster. She can't go slower. She has to keep this, kind of droning, however many miles an hour it is, constant. It must be a consistent, constant pace going forward. Each step must be the same as the last for her to be able to successfully get away with this rolling maintenance and not have it be suspicious. She makes her way through the streets. Every time she runs into a DB patrol, it seems like they go down for just a few moments. She sneaks past them, gets to the next one, another patrol down, another patrol down. She actually gets all the way through the city with no real horrible trouble until she gets to these last 2 maintenance doors right before you leave the entirety of the city of New Ephyra. She gets to them and she's kind of out of breath. She stops to take a breather, but then she realizes that she cannot stop. She had to keep that consistent pace, and there's a moment where she doesn't think she's going to make it, but just in the nick of time before that final door closes, she makes it through. She's officially on the outside of the walls of New Ephyra. She's made it out of the city that she was told she was not allowed to leave, and she's met by a familiar face. She's at first afraid that somebody's there to capture her or arrest her, but she hears a very familiar voice, and one that we would all be glad to hear if we were going on a mission like this. The voice of Marcus Phoenix is there, and he is there to join her on this rescue mission to save those 2 kids from Fort Umsen and the possible DBs that will be sent there again today. That's where this chapter 8 ends, and this is a shorter video because this also ends Act 1. Next video, we're going to pick right up where we left off at the start of Act 2 and the daring rescue mission of Kate and Marcus Phoenix. Thank you for joining me tonight. Have a great rest of your day. This is Colin, signing out.